What's up, everybody? Welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Balance Sheets. My name is Mike Whitmire, co-founder, CEO of FloQast, also an inactive CPA. Today, really excited to bring some FloQasters onto the line. So for Blood, Sweat, and Balance Sheets, we like to cover financial topics, generally a lot of career progression, but we have some really exciting developments in the technology world, and at FloQast, we want to bring in some special guests to discuss that today. With that, I'm going to be handing over my responsibilities as the formal host for today and introduce you to our first guest, Jaysen Dyal from the FloQast product marketing team. Welcome, Jaysen.
Thanks, Mike. First time doing this with you, so I've watched a bunch of episodes, and so it's finally great to join you in this podcast room.
Well, I'm excited to punt responsibility off to you. So
let's go. For the day, just for the day. Not by no means taking over. Your name's still on the wall. And then we have Vicky LeVay, our compliance leader here at FloQast, who's going to talk to us about an exciting new announcement as FloQast continues to just pave the way with compliance. I mean, you guys are like our leaders in this organization.
Love
it's
it.
amazing. So
Thank you.
We'll talk a lot about the ISO 42001.
Yeah.
42001.
Yay, Jaysen.
What that is, what it means. We'll go through just ethical AI as part of receiving the certification, and then lastly talk about the future of AI for FloQast. So excited for the conversation. But with that, first, ISO 42001. What is that? Vicky, if you can walk us through.
Oh, it's so exciting. Yeah, AI really exploded on the market recently, and with that came a lot of concerns about how do you use and build and deliver AI ethically and responsibly and in an auditable way. And so what we saw was, NIST came out with a really good risk assessment, AI risk assessment. And then we saw the AI CPA come out with some really good think pieces around what are the risks associated with AI. And ISO, being who they are, a global standard that's been around since World War II, said, hold my beer. Here's an auditable standard. Go ahead. Here's how you do AI ethically and responsibly. We're going to define this for you, and we're going to make you audit it to validate with a third party that you're compliant with it. So that's what ISO 42001 is. It's a standard about AI, specific to AI. It's interesting because, security and privacy and resiliency, these things have been on the market for, decades at this point. So we all know how to encrypt data, and we all know, that kind of stuff. AI comes with its own unique set of considerations. So we think about like hallucinations and ghosts in the machine and some of these risks that don't come along. They're not security risks. They're not privacy risks. They're very unique AI risks. And what ISO did that no other standard has done is said, here are those unique risks to AI, and here's what you can do to mitigate those as an organization. Prove to us that you've done this, and you get certified. And so that's what we did.
One of the things that was really interesting about this one is you were figuring out how to do it. Like, there's not a ton of literature out there to read on how to do this. Could we take a step back? Just like tell us a little bit more about your career and how much of this you've dealt with over the years, and like why you are uniquely suited to be in a position to be able to do this. Feel free to brag about yourself.
That's so fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, how often do you get to be strategic with compliance? So I've consulted for 10 plus years, and then I worked in-house to run a SOX program, a PCI program. So I've got some breadth of experience doing it myself, and then supporting other organizations do compliance. And I've seen it done really well, and then not so well. Not so well typically looks like the compliance team is an order taker from the auditors. So they're really at the mercy of what the auditor tells them to do, and then they just make the business do it, and they say, because the auditors are making us, The best compliance programs that I saw that I was really inspired by saw what the business was doing, was proud of it, and defended that, presented that to their auditors and defended it. So their auditors weren't allowed to add more requirements because you already made such a strong case that we're already doing this right, and here's how and here's why. So that's what we built here, was a program more like that. Mike has built FloQast with a very strong culture. We are by accountants for accountants who genuinely care about our customers. Nobody at FloQast, with or without me in the building, nobody's going to hand our customers an amazing AI agent and also hand them a compliance problem. So everybody at FloQast was already approaching us. We're building these AI agents for our customers. They're so cool. They're going to transform the way they work. But we also don't want them to have a problem with their SOX auditors. So what can we do? So my team didn't solve this problem on our own. We worked with product, we worked with sales, we worked with customer success, and said, what are your customers concerned about, and how are they currently solving these? And then how do we translate that to this black box of AI and make it auditable? So collaborative, and it wouldn't have happened without the culture that we have here at FloQast.
And one of our key values is ambition with integrity, which I love. And I think, new technology, particularly, I get the feeling with AI, it presents an opportunity to be ambitious without a lot of integrity, and you can like make some money if you do things the right way. But as former accountants, I feel like we have this responsibility to thoroughly think through how AI is going to be used within accounting. And one of the things I find interesting is how, at the end of the day, all of this is going to be audited. So hearing you talk about the auditors, it's like, that's where our head is at, is when you fast forward to when PwC comes out to do a financial statement audit and look at Sarbanes-Oxley, how is FloQast AI going to be perceived as part of that process?
Right.
So I love that we're doing this. I love that we're focused on it. So there's kind of two components I think we're going to talk about today, which is us being audited under the ISO 42001 framework, but then also just like kind of how we feel about how our technology should work and ultimately be auditable
Yes.
by your external financial statement auditors. Yeah.
Yes.
And how are we at 42001?
How are we?
Where do these numbers come from?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. ISO has more than 20,000 frameworks. ISO is really cool. They came out after World War II to have an international opinion about how manufacturing should be done in a safe way. So if my country's train is going to your country, we can trust that we're using safe manufacturing. And then as the world evolved, they evolved into pharmaceutical development and now technology. And so they just keep adding standard upon standard. And here we are at 42,001.
So we don't need to go too deep. That must have evolved out of like the New Deal and FDR coming over and wanting to clean up the. Okay, that's super interesting. I didn't know the origins of it. That's very cool.
It is cool to see like the oranges of where these things happen and how they've evolved into today.
Yeah.
It's like 42,000, like all these frameworks later. But like the origin of it, what was the philosophy behind originally coming out with these frameworks, and ISO being one of the most stringent requirements out there, right? There might be other frameworks that exist, but ISO is like, that's golden standard. They're going to have the most strict requirements. So to get that certification, we must have undergone a very robust audit process and having to prove things out.
This progression to me is insane. It started with, working in that factory really sucks. And all of a sudden we're talking about how AI is going to fast forward out 80 years. And here we are talking about, instead of a labor in a facility, we're talking about AI and everything. It's fascinating.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So how many frameworks are we at now?
FloQast. So a lot of companies are kind of like Eagle Scouts, where they collect 1 million badges. We don't collect 1 million badges. You can kind of pay for them at a certain point. We have 5, and they're very meaningful. They're what our customers need. We've been getting them strategically right before our customers need them and our prospects need them. So, I always joke that compliance is hanging on to the head of the truck. FloQast is the truck, and we're just watching the direction it's going and what roadblocks are ahead. And we're like, okay, move that one out of the way, move that one out of the way. So we have 5. We have SOC 1, which is used by our customers' SOX auditors. So our product, FloQast, is audited by our public companies, our public customers, Big 4 auditors annually. So if we have a hole, our customers' auditors are going to find it. And that's what SOC 1 is meant to do, is to give to pass that audit. We have SOC 2. That is a very general security standard, security and availability standard that most SaaS companies have. You have to have it to sell typically, just so customers can trust that the data they put into your system is secure. So we have that. We have ISO 27001. So we talk about where ISO is different. That's also a security standard, but what's different about it is where the first 2 I mentioned are really US-based standards. ISO is collaborative international standard. So it's also a security standard, to Jason's point, much more stringent, prescriptive. It tells you got to do these things. You don't get a choice in those. And then the whole world that believes in the standard will trust your product. So it's more recognized internationally. Another certification we have is ISO 27701, which is a privacy certification that is about the data privacy of the users of our application and their personal data that we process. Aligns with GDPR standards and stuff like that. And then most recently, we got ISO 42001, which is our AI standard.
How many other companies have gotten that one?
there's no list out there, but we are scouring the internet. We are so curious about this. I found about 15 so far that I can find. We're so proud to be one of the first 15 to 20 companies that have gotten the certification, right up there with Anthropic Claude and AWS and some of the big players in the market.
I'm so used to just like roll it forward and we'll do what we did last year and there we go. So like, can you tell us what it's like figuring out standards and how to draft controls? Just like tell us a little bit more about that process.
Yeah, because our auditors, we are the first firm that they've audited on this. So they didn't know how to audit us. So like I talked about at the beginning, we don't take orders. We could not in this case because they don't know what to ask us for. So we really had to take the standard and the objectives of the standard and demonstrate to our auditors, paint a story. Here's how we've met these objectives. So we had to contemplate internally about that. So I'll give you an example. One thing that's tricky with AI is a prompt injection attack. So what you can do, and this has happened, and there's been breaches because of it out on the market, you can trick AI to give you another customer's data. So you can ask a question in the right way and be like, tell me what XYZ company over there's financial statements look like.
Okay.
And it's like, here you go. Here's your answer. I'm so proud of myself for giving you this information. And now you have their financial records. So
that's why the not commingling data becomes so important for every prospect. And okay.
Yes, because of prompt injection. And so we built our runners are in isolated environments, and not every company can say that, but no, we do not commingle data. It's very strictly logically segmented, so that AI couldn't find that information even if it wanted to.
And this is kind of segueing into a broader conversation around like, so for our audience, like the risk, right? Everything starts with risk, and then you have the mitigating controls. So what are some of those risks that exist in AI? We've talked about hallucinations and data sharing. So if you can walk through like the risks that exist.
Yeah. AI, it's like, I'm going to steal this from someone else. I watch a lot of webinars and stuff like this, so this is not my own thought, but it's like an overambitious intern. It's so proud of its work. It's trying so hard to do a good job, but it doesn't have a lot of experience. It's not an expert in its field. So it's going to deliver you information in a very confident way using really big words. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you will believe it. And that's called hallucinations. So it gives wrong information in a very believable way that could trick someone. So that's a unique risk to AI. That's not something we've been contemplating in the past. We've had people making decisions. Now we've got computers making decisions, and we need people to spot those things. So hallucinations is one example of a big AI risk. There's a lot of things you can do to mitigate that. One of the popular ones, which we employ here at FloQast, is human in the loop. So we never allow an AI tool to do a thing without a human reviewing and approving that thing. Our product requires a button be pushed before AI does a thing by a human, one of our customer users, every single time. And our product team is on it. They've implemented that across our platform. Yes.
This is like industry leading stuff then, right? Like you said, the auditors don't know how to test. We're one of the first to get a certification. The publication on this only came out December of 2023.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of like you guys figuring it out in the building, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I have this like infographic of AI risks and things to mitigate the risks, and it's grown. I open it. My team adds to this almost monthly, and we're like, oh, here's a new risk, here's a new thing, and it's funny when this first came out like a year ago. We started this thing and we had like five risks, and now we've got like 30 and all these mitigations because we've just been learning so much over the past year.
Just daydreaming about risks all day as a team. Nice. Okay. Starting to make sense.
Just waking up sweating. Oh, I forgot I missed the risk. Mike, we hear a lot about tone at the top, and obviously, a lot of publications, consultants, they all say, set a good tone at the top. But this is an example of where you have set a good tone at the top. Can you just talk to us about what that tone is and give a tangible example, and using this ISO certification as an example of that?
Well, I mean, Vicky, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the very nature of just like investing in it and being on top of it and caring about it, talking about it at all hands meetings and things like that. It's little things like that. And then, you wrap it around like a company value with ambition, with integrity, and a lot of that feeds into compliance being what backs that up. And then just, it's in our DNA. Like there's so many accounts around here. It's you have to be extremely ethical to be a great accountant. You have access to so much confidential information that's really important. You're in a position to steal money if you want to. Like you can do things as an accountant. Ethics and accuracy, two most important things in our field. And so yeah, it's just part of us. I don't know. It is what it is. Like I'm extremely ethical. I'm very dogmatic about stuff, very principled. I think that's a good thing for our clients. It's important that we have that as part of our culture. I don't know, Vicky, like what do you think is done at the top, I guess, by me?
What is my tone?
I mean, I ask you I think twice a year to mention compliance in your all hands calls, and you always do, and it's highly effective. So our company follows your lead, cares about the things you care about. So when you say that's important to you, it becomes important to everybody. And you've done that consistently over the past 5 years that I've worked here. We have a unique culture of compliance here at FloQast. It's not because of me, it's because of the things Mike said. So like to be one of the first software companies to get ISO 42001, you don't do that in a bubble. You do it with the whole company behind you, working with you to figure this out. I would say there's like 3 things that are needed to make that happen. The first one is an obsession with customers. And, like I said, our company refuses to hand our customers a problem or an imperfect product. So everybody, top to bottom, sales to engineering, has been contemplating how to deliver this in a way that passes our customers' audits and doesn't give them problems down the road. We care about them. We don't care about their money, And then the second thing is the expertise to know when there's going to be a potential compliance problem down the road. So we are by accountants, for accountants. We are a company filled with auditors, former auditors. So we know what compliance looks like, and we have that internal instinct that tells us this is a problem for our customer. We should be thinking about it together as a group. And then the third thing is the ambitious with integrity. So, just that drive to do what's right, even if we're not experts. There's just low ego here. It's, we all work together on the same team to get something done. And that partnership is really strong across the company.
Yeah, because we did a study with the University of Georgia, and we talked about this on previous podcasts with Stefan around like strategic compliance versus checking the box mentality.
Yeah.
And so that's what you were talking about earlier, where it's like, just tell me, auditor, what I need to do, and I'll check the box. Especially in North America, we see that where it's like, if you look at the old revenue standard, it's like it's in or out, it's black or white. Just tell me what I need to do. And so we've seen examples of there is like a non-insignificant portion of compliance professionals. I think it was like 13% in our survey that viewed compliance strategically, and like this is what it looks like. This is just the tip of the iceberg, right? The result of getting ISO certified, but really it's like. It is a day-to-day function. You guys are constantly thinking about new risks. You're able to take strategic direction from the top of what leaders are trying to do in a new geographic area or new type of technology. And like you said, we've talked about this, Vicky, where you can't be just a black box of information. It's spreading that knowledge throughout the organization. So I think that's just the culture here, feeds into it.
Well, so something to know, you had said, like kind of what I want us to be compliant with. I don't know about this stuff. I lean on Vicky. It's like you knew about this framework way before me, and so you talked to Eric about it, and then we're just like, yes, approved. Go. Let's go figure it out. And I would say that the best proof point around it being strategic for us is that we talk about it on sales calls. Like it's a proactive check for us in the positive column. And so when I am on an all hands meeting, it's like, we're celebrating a certification that we either renewed or a new compliance one that we got or whatever. It's like, and oh, by the way, sales team, make sure you use this in the cycle because it looks really good for us. We'll get through IT. You'll feel good about it. Like to me, when you're thinking about compliance as a revenue generator, that's when you've like moved into strategic compliance, and it's not just the auditors telling you what to do. It's like, hey, we got it already. Let's go. Let's go close some more deals with it.
So Mike, when AI was introduced into the marketplace about like the technology, where'd your head go first? What was your first opinion, and what was your thought process on introducing it into our product?
Well, okay. So one of the interesting things is we have, we have a bunch of investors in FloQast, venture capitalists. Obviously, they're hearing about this stuff soon. So I got a bunch of frantic emails from them. What are you guys doing in this space? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. And as I was thinking about it, I started my career at Ernst & Young. When you're a professional skeptic auditor, I feel like that's just like never leaves. It's ingrained in you. So my head immediately went to all right, if I'm auditing companies using this technology, what am I going to be looking for? And like, how the heck is this going to be audited? So I had heard things like you can just put gap rules into a large language model and it'll produce financial statements. And then again, in my head, I'm like, all right, who's going to audit the large language model that produced these numbers? And the people who build large language models don't know how they work. How is a CPA auditor who doesn't write large language models going to learn how they work and verify and audit? That all just felt like a total trap we could be stepping into if we didn't think about it right. So I was kind of in this tough point of like, okay, investors are freaking out. They want us doing something tomorrow. However, I know in the future audit's going to be a really important part of this. So we need to slow down and think about it the right way, and make sure that our clients, when they're using our AI products, PwC, EY, they're not going to give them crap about their financial statements and they'll pass the financial statement audit. Then there was the component that I don't know anything about, which is the certifications that we need to make everyone else feel comfortable about our technology. And that's where Vicky comes into play. So like for that side of it, what was going through your head?
Yeah. I mean, initially my first reaction was like, oh, we can't do this. What? But I got over that real quick. And then I thought, how are our customers going to trust our product? I got to attend a webinar with 1,000 general counsels. And we did a quick spot survey, who is adopting AI at your company, and more than half said they're dinosaurs. They're not even contemplating adopting it. And so I was like, how do we overcome that barrier? I talked about being on the front of the FloQast truck, and I'm seeing this barrier in our future, and I just know how far third-party attestations go for garnering trust. And so we reached out to our auditors and we're like, what is out there on the market? What can we get? We were researching, and they said this ISO 42001 is coming. It's not done yet. It's not finalized. And, I was calling them all the time, put me on the front of the list. Where is it? Is it finalized yet? Has anything else popped up? How do we get this? And then the second it was final, we were the first ones to get our cert.
And to your point, like third-party vendor management is like a huge problem. There's 60% of data breaches happening with third parties.
Yeah.
So not even what you're doing to building, but the vendors that you're using.
Yeah.
And so just being able to have that mindset and being able to provide the confidence to our clients about using FloQast, and if it is an in-scope solution for their financial processes and their audit, then having the confidence of relying on the technology that we offer.
We take it very seriously. I mean, our department is the internal auditor for FloQast works on my team. The vendor risk management team is part of my team. And so we know what we expect in those roles. And so we just know what we need to deliver to our customers. It's really easy to think the way they think because we are them.
Yeah, that's such a great advantage to have. It's like if you've done the audit job before, ultimately what it's going to look like and what you're going to ask for on the other side of the table, which I guess is, for better or for worse, forever a professional skeptic. It does get deeply ingrained in you.
It does.
And that's part of where, like Mike, you talk where there's speed to innovation, first to market, right? AI seems like it's gonna be a breaking story in 2025, right? It started in 2024, but like regularly we're gonna see a new enhancement or new capability. AI agents, we talked on that. So there's all these new capabilities, and so, but we're also working in a world where people don't really know how to navigate and use AI responsibly.
Right.
And so being able to fold in at least like an example of that, right? My favorite thing to do when I was in public accounting for private companies was if there's a new disclosure, and it's like, how do you disclose it? Well, I'll just look at a public company, an accelerated filer. How did they do it? And we'll just kind of follow suit. But now we're at an org where we are the trendsetters. We are the ones that are establishing, what are the risks, documenting those, and how do you mitigate it? So, I mean, we're still privately held, and look at us, we're setting the standard here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It puts us in a very good position.
So fun.
So how do you have that, Mike, that what is it, the discipline to not get caught up in the speed of innovation and building responsibly, right? You're watching other competitors get to market first with some capability, whether it's like, just UI drapery, and on the back end, it's just, something that they can go to chat AI and do anyways. How do you build that discipline with the R&D department to say, no, we're going to build it right and build it responsibly, not about being first, but about getting it right? It's
hard to have that discipline because one of my general takes on AI is I think it's going to be much quicker to build than it is to be adopted. And I think that's for two reasons. One is compliance, like what we're talking about. I mean, and I think in general, accountants are a little slower to adopt technology than other groups within an organization. And so I think it will take a little bit longer. Like there's going to be a bunch of stuff built, and then it's going to be a matter of how long does the adoption period take after that. So with that, I don't feel like there's an extreme rush to get it out like tomorrow, but we want to do it sooner rather than later. And so we can be a little more patient in this area, and like we have to be. We can't get it wrong. Hallucinations to me is the most terrifying part of all of AI. Like if you go ask a technologist, and I remember one of my favorite tech podcasts that when OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, they were just like, can someone load up all the gap rules into ChatGPT and automate accounting? And I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is from a guy who knows nothing about accounting, clearly. Like number one, there's interpretation to be done. That's not how it works. And number two, how is any of that going to get audited? Like, you got to audit this stuff at the end of the day. And so, yeah, we have that unique ability to think through to the end game and what that's going to look like. I think because a lot of us were in that Sarbanes-Oxley world and went through it. So for me, it's like should we be? It's we have to be, or this is going to ultimately bite us if we don't do it the right way. And I just go back to hallucinations to me are terrifying. And that's why you got to think about this the right way, because you can't audit a hallucination. And you're right, they're so confident when they're wrong. And one of my rants right now is hallucination might go down as one of the best branding things that's ever been created. Yes. Like I would love to meet the person who said, well, when it's wrong, we should just call it a hallucination. And that's kind of like a cutesy way to laugh off a fundamental problem that should not be acceptable.
Inaccuracy.
It should not be acceptable. Yeah. So I don't know, when you're talking about like our field, where it's ethics and accuracy are really important, like hallucinations is kind of like a problem with both of those.
The hallucination is a big one. And then because it speaks so confidently, like the overambitious intern, and then also the data side. Like the fact that you just said, oh, you can just ask a question and get financial data from privately held companies, so it's not even publicly held information. Yeah. And be able to grab that kind of seems something that I would probably overlook, but as a compliance professional, you have to have the bandwidth and like the talent to be able to think about creatively what are the risks and how do you combat that. So the data aspect of it is also very impressive to be able to provide, especially because we're dealing with financial data, right? This isn't other types of data, maybe you can get away with it, but with financial data, that's like sensitive information that should be safeguarded very tightly.
Yeah.
It's MNPI, material non-public information. You can be personally liable for acting on MNPI if you receive it. So, I mean, like this prompt injection risk scares me in the financial world because an average individual could get access to a company's non-public financial information and be like, oh, this is interesting, and then be personally liable. Like, I mean, I know that's worst case scenario, but it does scare me.
There's a technical term, right? I'm talking hypothetically, and then here comes our Vicky professional here. Like there's a technical term for it.
Not only that, there's an acronym for it.
There's an acronym for everything.
An acronym as well. And so when we look at innovation, right, obviously we got the certification. We're building AI. Yes. Mike, what does the future of accounting look like for AI? I know we've had these discussions before, but since we're on the topic of, now we've got the certification, we've thought about how to build responsibility, and that's spread throughout the organization. What does AI look like? What's your take?
Well, I think AI is a great tool for delivering better automation capabilities. So I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is automate as much work as possible to help close the talent gap and just help accountants go home at a reasonable hour. And there's already a lot of those automation capabilities available. But what we've found is with large language models, you're in a position where you can really write a lot of custom code to handle unique use cases. And so we think it's basically like a 100x tool for allowing you to automate more of your mundane workflows. So that's the use case I like, is like, hey, let's look at an end-to-end process. Where can we apply a combination of maybe integration points with AI, with some of the components of our platform to help automate these end-to-end workflows and chip away at as much of the operational like headache that you have inside of your accounting department. So to me, it's not about back to like just throwing stuff in a large language model and expecting a reconciliation to come back or a journal entry to get produced by a large language model. I think that's really risky. So you need to take like the accounting expertise and mindset, give them the tooling that AI offers, and then put accountants in a position to automate that work. That way it's done properly, it's going to be audited. And what I think happens is the audit changes significantly away from a substantive audit and more towards an IT audit. That's what I'm hoping the future of audit is if we do our job properly, there's a lot less transactional audit to be had and much more IT audit to be had. And hopefully that makes everyone's life a lot easier, both sides of the table.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I remember during my public accounting days, it was like because it's not feasible to do a test of 1,000 revenue transactions and try to fit that into a 2-week audit schedule for field work. So there was a big push by audit partners, like find the control. There has to be a control that exists. Maybe it's not documented. We can hit them with the, other matter of significant deficiency because it's not properly documented, but find the control. It exists somewhere. So we can test it and we can rely on controls. Because being able to, there has to be a system in place, right? I mean, even if you're a mom and pop shop, somehow hopefully, I would think.
As the guy who did revenue with a bunch of workbooks at my last job, I would disagree. And I got more samples requested every day, it felt like. So no, I agree with you. I wish it was all tech driven and just a simple IT audit.
Right.
That connection point looks good. I'll assume that everything else is proper after that. Yeah.
That's funny.
But I think we can I actually genuinely think at FloQast we can make that happen, and it can be applied to anything. And what I love about the way we're approaching it is you can handle the uniqueness of every different company, right? Like deferred revenue, you could say, oh, revenue recognition is revenue recognition, but even at 2 software companies, it's different. And so it's how do you build technology that handles the uniqueness of each of those different companies, even if you're in the same vertical, same industry, like you have different rev rec techniques and you need a platform like what we have to be able to automate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's building that repeatability as well, right? That's where like the difficulty of AI, because even when we use random number generators, you still get some kind of token that should go back to producing the same set of samples selected. So there's still a way to repeat that work. But with AI, it's like, how do you perform the same process that was done and get the same result? That's where like there's a difficulty there. So, that's something to plug.
Yeah. I think it seems like the LLMs are getting better about at least sourcing to where they've like acquired information. So there'll be some opportunity to do that within specific B2B products as well, to look at and that's what we're really focused on. Like back to your point around engineering and product, it's like, hey, how do we prove the technology worked properly and did what it did, so that if the auditor wants to go out and audit a workflow, they can see, oh, the thing did this step this way. Let me recalculate that. Okay, I feel good about it. And then you sign off as an IT audit being complete. And then hopefully you don't have to do a bunch of sampling on the back end.
Yeah, because we talked about this. Well, I don't know if you remember, Mike, during my interview, we talked about doing an audit out of FloQast. That becomes the software. You just hand over FloQast and say, go do an audit while I can continue doing my day-to-day work. And I don't need to be inundated. I don't know if that's the word, but bothered with sample selections, and if there's questions, sure, those come up. But having a system that is fully auditable, we talked about that a lot, and it's sort of a consistent messaging theme for us, but truly like handing over FloQast and saying, have at it. Everything you need is in there, how we did it, all the sign-offs, the assessment, repeatability, being able to do it all out of FloQast.
We're getting there, man.
Close.
We got a compliance solution. You can link your source work to your controls, and then we have a bunch of AI doing workflows that's auditable. By the way, we have your reconciliations and transaction level detail. Like that feels like everything you need to get through an audit. So yeah, it was a while ago we chatted, but here we are.
Here we are. Kept on the path. That's awesome. And Vicky, so you talked about how there was a lot of touch points with people across the org, right? This wasn't done in a bubble and not an ivory tower.
Nope.
So can you talk about what those touch points look like? Like what for leaders out there that are interested in becoming more strategic and having a more integrated role in their organizations? Mm-hmm. What do those touch points look like? What are you guys talking about, and how are you enabling the team?
We talk a lot about this like servant mindset. Like we work for these departments. We're not bossing them around, I mean, our internal Slack channel is nicknamed Control Patrol, which is a fun little name, but we really try not to be the patrol, like the ones telling everybody what to do and how to do it. Our job is to provide service to them. So help them feel comfortable with what they're doing and get ahead of the questions that they're going to be asked by our auditors. And when you take that kind of a mindset, you just have a different type of relationship, a different type of working relationship.
Yeah, I think your openness to helping the business, you're not like the office of no.
Right.
Which is a big one that a lot of people hear. Like, I don't hear people complaining about compliance around here. Right. Which I think is probably your dream. Like, we are compliant, however, no one complains about compliance. That's a great spot to be in.
It was our vision when I started the department 5 years ago. I came up with like a mission and a vision statement for the department. And the vision was that all departments across FloQast would approach us proactively when they're making changes that impact our compliance program. that is unheard of. It just doesn't happen, and we're doing it. It's happening here, and it's amazing to look back and see the vision was accomplished.
Well, it's cool. It is so cross-functional. It's not you in an ivory tower or just right. telling everyone what to do. I think you getting the buy-in is a really smart way of doing it, getting people on board there. And I know for me, the SWOT analysis exercise we do and the risk is a really helpful annual exercise because it puts everything in context and like reminds you why we're doing all of this. And so I'm not sure how deep in the organization you go with that exercise. How many kind of layers? I know you do it at the C level, but
that's such a good exercise. We do VP and above, and then a few strategic other folks that have like really like subject matter expertise that are helpful. So we end up interviewing close to 30 people every year for the SWOT analysis, and it's been so cool to watch it shift and change as our organization has shifted and changed.
Do you think that helps get buy-in to a compliance program, or is it just kind of like a cool exercise that people get to do?
No, it gets buy-in because we are listening to people's opinions. It's like that's the two things you need for buy-in. You need executive sponsorship, which we have from you, and then you need people to have a seat at the table, like a say in what's happening. They need their opinions to be heard, and they need to put their thumbprint on the thing in some kind of meaningful way. And that's what we get with our SWOT analysis and other exercises we do. We're doing a up level of our SOC 1 report right now, and instead of just going around and telling product and engineering, do this, do this, do this, we ask them first, what do you think our customers are missing? What do you think they want to see from this report that we don't have? What are you hearing from them? What are you worried about? And then we took that in and turned that into controls, and then also added our own that we cared about. So it's that kind, you're right, it's buy-in and collaboration that creates the partnership that we have like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, explaining the why.
Yeah.
As well. That's always very helpful.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It takes like a humbleness, right? To do that, to ask and not expect to have all the answers. It's funny, you said the office of no. The other thing I thought was the office of I need this.
Yes.
That kind of goes away as well. And as part of that, there was an initiative to, put our money where our mouth is and implement FloQast as part of your role. Can you talk about how you guys have used FloQast internally and how that's changed the way you guys work?
It's the same thing. Like we are so proud of what our friends across the company are doing, and we want to just be a part of it and support them in every way. So, as soon as I heard we were building a compliance product, immediately our whole team was on board. Let's use this. Even it wasn't totally designed for a program like ours at first, but we were like, we got this. We're going to make it happen. We have twice a month meetings still with that product team. It's been close to a year now, and we love it. We just geek out with them about what they're building next, how we can use it for our needs, and it's been a really exciting journey.
Because we talked about feeling sophisticated about your work or lack of, right? For compliance teams that are still stuck in spreadsheets and doing things very manually. Right. So it's like the way you're working is very unsophisticated, and therefore you feel unsophisticated about the work that you do.
Yes.
And so having a tool like FloQast and bringing it in automatically like changes the way you work. And therefore, obviously seeing here that you guys are working at a highly sophisticated level, but the way you work is supporting that as well. So you're not stuck in a manual environment trying to be strategic. It's like, no, and that's kind of the hope of technology, right? It's not to completely overtake the work that you're doing, but really elevate the way you're working and feel good about it. Obviously, there's a lot of attention on like the sales and the marketing side, right? Of they get the shiny new objects. If there's a new technology that comes out, it's, they get the budget for it in the IT time, but there's not as much focus on the compliance side. Obviously, this is an exception here, but having a tool that is going to be effective, and it's like if you can invest in one thing, like what can it be, right? And so being able to be that tool, and elevating the way that you work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. There's something about our product, and I can't totally put my finger on it, but customers love it. Users love using our product, and we knew that, but we weren't running accounting, so we didn't really know why. And now we're using it for compliance, and we love it. We like logging in and using this tool, and I don't know what it is, but it's fun and it's rewarding, and you feel good about the work you're doing in it.
Well, that's part of what I remember a problem we were having on the consulting side. The implementation was like, it was too easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. It wasn't these big, six-figure projects and months drawn out and a lot of work. It was like, it was too easy.
Yep.
Mike, why'd you make a tool that was too easy to implement?
Well, the honest answer is I worked at a company where we got no IT time. So it kind of like, I was I built a product that would have filled my pain point when I was at Cornerstone, right? And it was 6 people pre-IPO. Our IT team had a bunch of stuff going on. And so our stuff around NetSuite never got prioritized, for example. So I'm thinking like, okay, that's probably the world we're going to be selling into. So let's make sure it's easy to get set up, a couple credentials. But there's also setup, but then there's adoption. And I think that's where it's your user experience is what matters. And it just goes back to like, because we have so much experience in the space, we just built something that feels right. When you logged in, you're like, oh, this all makes sense. Yep, makes total sense. And you can only do that if you've actually done the work before. So if you think about the product teams that have worked on our different solutions, they're domain experts within those products, like Mark Riker doing compliance. Like the guy's been on both sides of the table and knows compliance really well. And all of a sudden you have a product that just makes sense from a user perspective. And yeah, you can't put your finger on it. Right? It is like kind of annoying because I feel the same way, especially when I'm talking to VCs. Like it's just like a bunch of little things that you would not get.
Exactly.
It's kind of how it is. But yeah, that's what it is. It's the whole by accounts, for accounts, by auditors, for auditors on the compliance option. That rings true in the product.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's picked up a lot, is by accounts, for accounts, and then in other realms. So we're even seeing our messaging getting picked up by other software in the realm. But yeah, I guess the one last thing I had written down here was just, again, it kind of feels to me like with AI, it's like the second coming from when I remember when I was talking to partners back in the day, and it's like they would still do the audit work papers in paper, and then there's like people have different color pens to indicate the review and then respond to the review notes. And then came the advent of technology of where all of that, you had binders. It's funny, one time, when I was working, I see, I'm in this binder, I'm in that binder. And then we were traveling, and I put my laptop in my backpack, and my wife looks in there. She goes, "Where are all your binders? Like you're always talking about a binder. But where's the binder?" And I go, "Oh, it's the laptop. Like it's digital now." Yeah. And so it feels like with AI, it's the second coming of we say elevating preparers to reviewers, but it kind of feels the same way where not operating in manual spreadsheets and having an Excel doc that can do a lot of the formula automation and just really doing things a lot faster, kind of feels like the second coming of that level of automation, of elevating work.
Yeah. I think it's on par with the cloud, like the switch to the cloud. That's what allowed us to get out of tie-out binders, right? Was, okay, there's a cloud application now, we can connect everything together. But even that, tie-out binders were still being used pretty broadly in 2015, right? And like the cloud was a 1998 kind of thing, and NetSuite was out in 1999, and Salesforce was what branded the cloud altogether. And so that's why I was making the earlier comment around it'll be built a lot faster than it was adopted, because technically the solution that you needed to solve the tie-out binder problem was available in 1999. Wow. Mm-hmm. However, the cloud is still not broadly adopted across accounting, right? How many times do we talk to a prospect where they're on-premise software, and it's like you can't, it's really hard to do it if that's the case. So that's where I just go back to like adoption versus build is very different within our space. So that's why, like, from a business strategy perspective, it's okay if we pump the brakes for 6 months and get everything compliant and feel good about our technology before going to market. That's totally fine. Customers love us. They would love to use our AI products going forward. And so we'll do it all the right way.
There you go. And even like accountants may naturally be conservative in their adoption of adopting technology, but even like within industries, you see it as well, where it's like, even that is a spectrum of how forward adopting and non-adopting. You have some some industries where it's like, it's an industry thing. No, it's still on-prem and they have a very, very archaic way of thinking.
I break it down pretty simply. If it's go to market, they're willing to just buy something yesterday. If it helps you book more revenue, I'll buy it yesterday. Yeah. And the only justification, if it helps me close one more deal, it pays for itself. That's like all you need from an ROI perspective. But then, when we get into expense and cost savings, we're a little slower to adopt on that front, which is fine. We're here to help. We'll be here for the long haul. So you've obviously done a great job implementing a strategic compliance program here at FloQast. For anybody who's maybe new to the space or taking that next leap to like going from someone doing compliance to really owning it, what advice would you give them for making that transition and trying to make your company like FloQast? Because I think we're a great shining star of what it should look like.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, first of all, it's highly rewarding. So, reach for that goal. It's an exceptional experience to be able to work in a function like this. it's two-sided. You can't just do it yourself. You need a company that wants that and supports it and sponsors it. So, look for that. Look for a leader like Mike who understands the importance of compliance and sees it as a revenue driver. And then be a partner. It's so easy to be bossy in this field. You get a lot of power, kind of, it's like just easy to fall into that trap of just getting busy and barking orders at people. But if you can see yourself as like every department is our customer, then you turn you sit on the same side of the table with the other department and the problems on the other side of the table instead of you two being on opposite sides against each other. So if you can move yourself to that side of the table, that combination is what it takes to enable a strategic compliance function. And do not ask your auditors for their opinion. You tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then when they try to poke holes in it, you defend it. You are here to defend your business and the way they operate. And so if anyone's saying like, can we ask our auditor, go ask your auditor, the answer is always no to that. And yeah.
This is a dream client, right? It used to be, just book the stop comic expense for us, or like tell us what the risk should be, tell us how to, approach this. And it's like having someone that defends it. My God, I would love to be on FloQast as a client.
I hope we are probably as close to a rubber stamp audit as you can be. Yeah. Well, that was awesome. I want to thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for being strategic and just doing it in the best way possible. You're a pleasure to work with, and it's been awesome having you at FloQast. So thank you so much. I'm glad we got to spend time together, and I think the audience learned a lot from this one.
I remember my job interview here at FloQast 5 years ago, presenting a PowerPoint presentation to you, Mike. Thank you for hiring me back then and supporting this program as thoroughly as you do over the past 5 years.
My pleasure. Couldn't be easier. Thanks, Vicky.
Thanks.
Thanks, Vicky.